Welcome to the HVAC Jerks with your hosts, Rich, Kevin, and Joe. You can email these guys at theboys@thehvacjerks.com.
And welcome back to the HVAC Jerks. My name is Rich, and I'm here with Kevin and Anonymous Joe like every other week.
Yo.
Hello.
And say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
And
Hello, boys.
Tonight we're going to jump right into Anonymous Joe's alias because that's such a tradition, and everybody looks forward to that every week.
Not me.
So
Keep them safe.
listen, your name this week, as voted by the International Council of whatever they are.
School children.
Yes. Is going to be the Meatball Maven of Moscow.
Wow.
You are the Meatball Maven of Moscow. And
Oh, my God. All those years of college did not pay off.
you know, I think I read in some tabloid years ago that you were actually smuggling your meatballs into past the Iron Curtain with the CIA.
Just
back
by
then
the
in
name
80s.
that you came up with means that you can't read very well to begin with. So let's continue on.
Of Moscow.
All right, well, you'll be safe anyway. But,
did you interfere with the Trump election?
No, I did not.
Were you the inside guy?
No. So we have a very special guest today. I hear coming in.
We are going to have a guest, yep. What's going on this week, first of all? I want to do...
Well, I know AHR has opened up their registrations, right?
Yeah,
They're getting ready for Orlando 2019.
That'll be here.
2020.
Oh, that's right. It's going to
2020.
be... Oh, man.
Yep.
All right, I'm still in this year, so 2020. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great.
Okay.
No, Orlando's going to be cool too.
Schmando.
In February, yeah. Usually we try not to put a date on our podcast because you listen to these things forever. But AHR just opened up the registration this week, so that's good.
It's good stuff. So being that AHR is doing this, we have that kind of
sent us one of their
segues into our
Yeah.
guest, Pam Duffy.
Today we've got Pam Duffy. She's from Dallas. She's the owner of Spark One Solutions. It's a marketing company and business solutions consulting firm in the HVAC world. She's got a bio here that I was going to read word for word, but I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about it. She is, I'll say this though, she's a PE and an ASHRAE distinguished lecturer, so hopefully she speaks a little bit better than we do. And
That's not saying very much.
no, it's a low bar there, yeah. And she's a member of the AHR Expo Industry Expert Council. Say that once fast.
Oh, my God.
So, Pam, join us. You there?
Hey guys. Yeah, I'm here.
Tell us more about you.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm based here in Dallas, Texas. I'm really excited for the HR Expo to go back to Orlando because that's where I went to school at UCF, mechanical engineering background, and I have been working in the HVAC industry for more than 10 years now, and mostly in the engineering side. I've been working for a couple of different manufacturers. I've worked for Mitsubishi Electric. I've also worked for Lennox, so some big names. And most of my technical expertise comes in the form of mini splits and VRF. But more recently, I've started delving into the marketing side of our industry. So taking my technical expertise and helping small businesses in our industry with marketing and business development.
So as we were talking this week, and you and I were talking about this show coming up, and you said that you have a lot of interest from your clients and some of the lecturing you do about millennials and doing business with millennials. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a millennial. I am a special snowflake. I like my trophies, my avocado toast and whatnot. And I think millennials are very intriguing to non-millennials, and they just want to know a little bit more and delve a little deeper into who we are. And in our industry, when you knock on the door and somebody opens the door, you start putting them into buckets, rightly or wrongly, and, understanding a little bit about who they are based on their background. And one of the ways that you can do that is by the generation that they're from.
Pam, speaking of generation, sorry to interrupt, can we define that a little bit more? Because a lot of our listening audience, for me, I had to look it up. So I'm not sure what generation precedes you, or I know that X precedes you, and then
I'm a
baby
Generation
boomers,
X.
and right, and then
Joe's a colonial.
Yeah, I'm a colonial.
Founding father.
So maybe we'll give our listeners a heads up about what group they possibly belong to. Is that possible?
Yeah, sure. So let me start on kind of the oldest group of folks that are in our industry. So probably most of the people in our industry that are older are going to be baby boomers. And those are people that are born between 1946 and 1964-ish.
That's right.
Okay. There's a couple of us here.
Yeah. Then we've got Gen X. Gen X is a pretty small generation. They were born between 1965 and 1980-ish.
Okay.
And then millennials were born between 1980 and 2000.
They're also known as Gen Y, right?
Yes. Yep. Everybody, all the generations have different names. So millennials were kind of once known as Gen Y, and I don't know, the millennials thing just kind of took off.
Okay. So
and then we of course, I don't want to leave out Gen Z because Generation Z, they're just coming into the workforce now. So they're born after 2000. And I've been saying ish because there's a lot of kind of like cusp dates in between all of those different generations where people might feel like they follow more closely with one generation than the other.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Depending on where you look it up, the dates vary by year all over the place, from 1 to 2 year differences all over.
So I got a couple questions for you, Pam. You went to engineering, and I was just curious on what drove you to the engineering, mechanical engineering, doing that trade, and what made you go that direction?
Yeah. So I noticed that a lot of people in our industry got into HVAC because they have a family member, their father or somebody, uncle, whatever, owned a firm or something, and that was not the case for me. When I grew up in Florida, and what was really cool in Florida was theme parks and roller coasters. So
what's that place called? I can't think of the name of it.
With a D, right?
Yeah, something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it might be out of business.
The big DW. So yeah, I grew up wanting to build roller coasters and really got into engineering that way. I did well in math and science growing up. And then when I was in college for mechanical engineering, I actually went and I interned at one of the big theme parks and decided it wasn't for me after all that.
So you got into engineering and you didn't like roller coasters at the end of it? Is that what you...
I didn't like, this is kind of morbid, but I didn't like the idea that, if you don't do your job correctly as an engineer, that people come in for the best day of their lives and it could end up being a nightmare.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
That just sort of started to mess with me a little.
Yeah.
Well, so typically, females are not typically in the STEM fields, so it's a very low population. So that's why I was curious on, what driven you. I don't know if you had a family member that drove you into that direction or if it's just something that intrigued you.
I'm the only engineer in my family. So yeah.
Congratulations. Awesome. Most of our followers, and I'm just going by some of our insights on our side of, we have a HVAC Instagram and we have our following, and we're seeing numbers. The field is predominantly dominated by men and not so much with women. And there's more and more women getting into the trades every day. Is this something that you're angling towards as well to help promote with the millennials and trying to get more attention in that way? Or?
Well, I kind of feel like they're unrelated a little, but I will say that the more women that are in HVAC, the more it becomes normal to see other women in HVAC. Yeah. I think the number one reason, I know because studies have been done, the number one reason women, come into STEM fields and then leave is because they feel like it's a hostile environment or the organizational culture is not good. And I think when there's other women in the workplace, it can kind of help with that.
Sure.
So it's good when you see other women in the workplace, you see other women that are successful. I think it's good. So I don't know that it has to do necessarily with being a millennial or not, but just more about,
I
gender.
I could speak directly to that. I work for a rather large manufacturer, and it's huge on hiring women, especially in the higher positions, and engineering side and technical side and human resources side, and just overall, they're in the middle of the mix. So we have a nice variety of.
You have a lot of young.
Yeah, I mean our Gen Pop, like we call it Gen Pop is in the 20s to 35 and predominantly. I don't want to say predominantly, but it's a good mix of men and women. And I think it's better and better. Our company's better for it, and we're growing like crazy. But I think we're getting away from the story of what really brings us to the millennial factor, because it's gender neutral, right? It doesn't matter what you are while you're a millennial. We need to know how to get in their head and sell better to them, because that's what's going to be the most dominant next generation that we're going to be dealing with on a daily basis.
So what are the biggest challenges you come across, or questions that you come across from your clients? Is it is it a marketing thing more of how to market to them, or is it relating to them in the house, or what do you deal with most often?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, the differences between millennials and some of the other generations, and, how to approach them differently. And because there's things that are out there that are really the same across all generations. Like, for example, price. Millennials, we're struggling with debt. We're struggling with, trying to make a life for ourselves. Many millennials want to buy a home and they can't buy a home. Sure, that's all true of millennials, but everybody, Gen X, boomers, everybody's going to be sensitive to the final price. That's a topic for another day. But when it comes to millennials, what's most important is that you're understanding that they can research everything. They will research everything to death. They'll 100%. Research your company. They'll research the technology. They're going to research what the internet thinks is wrong with their air conditioning system. And so if you come in and you're not educated, or you can't help be a secondary or even a primary resource of information to them, they're going to write you off pretty quickly.
I was going to say, I bet you're the last guy on the list they're calling. They've already done all the research and tried to how to and everything else.
They already know what they want before you walk in the door.
Right.
Yep. I find that across the board with my customers, because we go in and I think just the technology that's out there today and the resource that people, just the fact that we're walking around with computers in our pocket, I think more and more people in general are realizing that information is available, looking up pricing, looking and doing the research on the companies and checking out websites. It's obviously the new way of how to do business in general. But like you said, I was looking at some of your statistics, and some of the population of coming up is insane. I think millennials are going to be almost the equal size of baby boomers.
Well, there's 83.1 and growing million in the United States. They're a quarter of the population.
Right. So it's an insane amount. So this is definitely an important topic that needs to be worked on and discussed.
But I think this goes across the board. It's not specific or just to HVAC. This goes
This is selling cars. Right? This is selling toothpaste.
So, but now, do millennials in general have different goals than what we're used to? I mean, if we were speaking to baby boomers and trying to sell them an air conditioning, can we put a blanket statement on it and say, in general, millennials have different goals than the baby boomers would in buying that HVAC system?
Yeah, I think so. I think millennials want they're a socially conscious group. And what I mean by that is they understand how their individual choice that they make impacts the rest of the world. So they're very aware of that and they want to participate that. So I think that more so than other generations, they prioritize efficiency, but they also prioritize technology and connectivity. So they're very much into, how can this air conditioning system connect to my Alexa? Sorry for setting off anybody.
Yeah,
no, that's right.
No, that's good. We like when you do that, actually.
But that's a big selling point I
Alexa,
find with my younger customers are totally into that angle of it. They want to know, how do I get it on my laptop? Can I adjust it from work? Does it send me an email? That's the new wave. For me, I see it. So
whereas the older generation felt more at ease doing something physically, as opposed to walk over to the wall and do whatever you needed to do with the thermostat.
Right.
Where now everybody's adjusting it by phone.
I still have customers that want big, fat, easy read.
Yeah.
They're old school turn.
They feel that they're a part of the system.
Turn up and turn down the heat. And they, so there's still those hanging out there. They still read the phone book. But, but those things are a thing of the past now, because that's the new wave. So.
But even for millennials, just walking in and saying, like, this unit has Wi-Fi, or this unit is able to be connected, or this thermostat has an app or something. Like, you need to be a little bit more specific, I think, is important. Like, it reminds me of when I went car shopping recently, and I said, well, does this car have Apple CarPlay? I want to be able to plug in my iPhone and for everything to work. And the guy says, well, yeah, we have an app. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Like, do you have it or do you not?
There's an app for
Does it work? Yeah. So I think it's important that your products inside and out, especially this technology side. Like, what exactly can it do and what can't it do?
We're always, for me and my guys, we're constantly trying to stay on top of that because of the new wave. And for me, I'm 44, so I'm not the oldest guy here by any means. But, the technology, for me, I've always tried to stay on top of it. My kids are 18 and 13. So, they're in the mix of it too, So I'm learning it with them and trying to stay hip with the kidsters out there, But
just by saying those two words indicates that you're not.
I drop it. I drop the quan with the customers when possible, so something like that, right? But so you're just trying to stay with the customers and my confidence in the products that are out there, and then trying to bring that across the table to the customer and say, look, this is something that you're going to love, and just in general, not even a generational thing. I think the generational thing, they already kind of know that stuff's out there and they want it. They're bringing it to you, saying, oh, I want that really nice thermostat that already exists, and I want to be able to hook it to my Alexa, or I want to be able to.
No, but I think Pam makes an excellent point. It's all about social consciousness. Mm-hmm. I think that the millennials and the newer generations are looking at something that companies are to try to be more sustainable, more geared toward an environmental kind of world, and as it's going, most companies are gearing that way, and even mine is directing their whole program to the end user. It's no longer to the installer. It's how the end user is going to interact with our product. I think
that's an interesting point too. Now, Pam, do you see manufacturers starting to market more to the end user rather than contractors?
Yeah, I see it both ways. I think that most manufacturers that I see are marketing still at those what I would consider high dollar, end customers. So people that have a lot of money to spend. That's what I see from an advertising avenue.
Yeah. I feel like this all started with the Nest. With the Nest thermostat.
Just the icebreaker.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like that came out and everybody started thinking about that.
That was the first mainstream one. There was ones out there.
You have to go by what the standards are, right? The standards, for example, in the United States are way behind as far as footprint and carbon and everything else around the whole world. Like in Germany, for example, they have strict guidelines of where they have to be as companies, or their carbon footprint, or how much impact they're making on the environment by certain dates. And we do to a sense as well, but not as strict as overseas, because they have no resources over there.
35 years ahead of us.
Right. Yeah, I can tell you my company's already met and exceeded those goals that the country set for them, and I think we're past them a few years ago.
Right.
So, and that's like a forced need, right? So they develop things out of necessity because that's the way it works over there.
So when millennials are doing their research for their new piece of equipment or whatever, are they seeing what's out there across, Europe.
Well, they can. They have the means to be able to do that. Like Pam said, everything before they come to you as a contractor, they're going to know everything you're going to want to try to tell them before they go there because they're tech savvy. They're already on the computer. They're looking up companies, and especially when you introduce them to a product, before they say yes or no to you, they're going to research that product.
Let's bring this way down to really granular level. So, Pam, does that mean we old style salesmen don't go in with a paper brochure anymore? I mean, is that?
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay. I think you need to know who I think you need to know who you're.
It's a good leave behind. I would say like one brochure is good, but it better be a really, really good brochure. I would not recommend like a stack of papers, like a folder with a whole bunch of stuff. Really what you want to do is give them all those resources and go to let them check it out online, which, by the way, if you do that, for anybody that owns a business, if you're directing them to your website, that's another opportunity for you to put something else on that web page to keep their attention and keep them going.
Kevin's got his hand
up. I'm raising my hand, Pam. So to that point, I made a page, and my website engineer person or whatever thought it was like the most brilliant thing for warranty registration and information for website link. All the brands that I dealt with my company, I made a page and put their emblem and made that a link to their website, and underneath it was a link to register the product on their website. So anything that I sold to them, I would direct them to my website, say go to page X, whatever the page name was, and click and play, and it would bring you right to the page, fill it out, you processed everything, you're good to go. People love it. Love it.
You've got a pretty high-tech website, though. I think a lot of companies, and again, Pam, you must see this all the time when you start talking to people, and there's a lot of companies out there that have like, the most basic one-page web page from 1980.
That's a turn-off.
Oh, man.
That's a big turn-off, especially in today's age.
Yeah, but it's better than not having a website at all.
True that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take a lot. Like, you don't need a fancy schmancy, bells and whistles website to.
Pam, was that an engineer word? Fancy schmancy?
It's very technical. Very technical.
Now you just jump back to my generation. Fancy schmancy.
There's a lot of really good free tools out there. It's just a matter of figuring out how to use them, or if you don't, hiring a professional. But there's a lot of really good tools out there that can make your website worthwhile. And so when it comes to, spend time on a brochure or spend time on a website, 100% the website every time. And I would just say, I might bring in the brochure and then say, would you rather me email this to you? Like, I'll email this to you. And I think most millennials would go that direction.
Yeah, we email, we text if they like. We ask those questions exactly, just like you're saying. Like, do you want me to leave this here? Do you want more of this? Or would you like me to email you something? Or I can mail you. And I used to handwrite and send packets of paper to all my estimates. I'm talking 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's literally just an email. Boom, short, simple, to the point.
You see more and more guys going in with iPads and everything's being done right there, digitally right there in the home.
That's actually a good question. Now, so guys going in with iPads instead of a book and all that kind of thing and doing a presentation sometimes on an iPad. Is that necessary, do you think? Or
I'll say from my perspective, necessary, no, but from my perspective, when I have a company come in and service my home and I see that they're using technology, that makes me happy. to put it short, it's like, it lets me know like they take technology seriously, like if I'm somebody that's not in the HVAC industry, like, I don't know what these tools are that you're pulling out of your truck and taking up to my attic. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but like, if there's something that gives me an indication that perhaps you're using the latest that there is, then that's helpful, and that helps build credibility.
So, well, this is a perfect spin. Forgive me for interrupting, Kev.
You always do.
No, that's true. But you're going back to, I'm going to go back to the very beginning of your conversation where you guys were saying you were price conscious. So when you see all this technology being brought forward and you're excited about it and you're happy because you're seeing your contractors up to date with all this technology, that also comes at a price. So it's a double-edged sword when you're dealing with this. When you want to be price conscious, you also have to realize that not necessarily
you get what you paid for. Episode 37.
Yeah, you get what you paid for. Episode 37.
I don't know. Is that the right episode?
I mean, like, I hear what you're saying, but I think most millennials I know, that's like an expectation. It's not like, oh, this contractor's fancy and extra because they're bringing in an iPad. It's like,
no, I'm not talking about the iPad. I'm talking about like you used to work for Mitsubishi and City Multisystems. You can go in there with a laptop now, just plug in, and you can do everything you need to do. Or you can do it remotely. So those systems, as you know, come at a price, and they're very good systems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm leaning to. So the higher the technology of the equipment and the more advanced that they are, typically they come with a bigger price tag. Not across the board, but typically.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and you guys had this conversation on previous podcasts, which is, you just need to be prepared to sell that,
right.
Not just the product, but also the expertise that you bring, which is, because there's stuff out there. Millennials out there are buying their own mini splits and installing them on their own house. Right. And your price is going to be more than that. And they're going to be able to research, and say, well, if I just do it myself, it'll be much, much cheaper than getting, this guy. This guy's priced me double.
That's the best. Those are our best customers, because then we charge triple to go in and fix it.
Yeah.
It does have pay me now, pay me later.
Yeah, it's about selling not just your value, but selling the products. And I think the key thing with millennials is just, you can't just come in and say, okay, here's my good, better, best. Like, well, okay, why is it better? Why is this one the best? What's the technology? Selling a fully variable mini split is different than selling a 2-stage unit, which is different than selling a single-stage unit. And this isn't just millennials. This is everyone in the market.
Of course.
They're only buying an HVAC system once or twice in their life, maybe a couple more times, depending on how often they stay in a home. So they only have a day or two to make a decision, and they're relying on you to provide that information.
Absolutely.
And that, difference of, well, why should I go with the more expensive thing? Is that really going to make a difference? And I think, like I said at the beginning, every generation is price sensitive. It's up to you to sell it appropriately.
Right.
So as a small company moving forward, we have a lot of listeners that are new to the industry that might be millennials themselves, or maybe Gen Y, or what's the one coming after it?
I forget.
Gen Z.
Okay.
Gen Z.
He had a rough childhood.
It's been
very poor school system.
Alphabet's a tough one.
The alphabet wasn't part of the curriculum.
So and then there's my generation that comes after that as well. That it's probably most of your smaller businesses now that are my age and maybe a little bit younger and on the cusp. But
you're Gen X.
What would you recommend? And I'm sure you talk about this in your lectures for marketing. What are some simple ideas and some things that a small company can endure financially to help better themselves with these generational gaps and the new people moving in?
Yeah. Well, I think at this point, all homeowners, no matter what generation they're part of, almost all homeowners are going to use the internet to look you guys up. And I think one of the most powerful things that exist on the internet is reviews of companies. And it's kind of a thing that, you either love it or you hate it. But the fact is that if somebody has a terrible experience working with you, they have a free avenue to tell the entire world about it. And that can have a significant impact on your business. And the flip side,
one way or the other,
if your business is rated 4 or 5 stars, you're going to get more phone calls. So I think, if you could invest one thing, if there was just one place where you could spend money in, working with everybody across all generations, it would be improving your reputation from when it comes to reviews.
Now, when it comes to reviews, it's interesting because one of the companies I know is going through this now, and there is a big push on to get reviews from their customers, and they're open-minded about it as far as they want the customer to do the review regardless of what it is. Now, in speaking to somebody else about this topic not too long ago, they said that it's more important or the most important thing is that if you get a negative review, is to respond to it quickly somehow, and put that on there too, and please give us a call and let us know how we can help you or make things better. And even if the situation doesn't get resolved and they don't care and they don't want to resolve it, the fact that you stepped up and tried to do something about it, I understand is,
or even get a chance to tell your side of the story,
or that too is almost more important than solving the issue. Is that true, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's important to respond to all reviews, positive and negative. In fact, Google has an algorithm that says, how fast are you responding to your reviews of your organization, no matter, if they're positive or negative. But when it comes to negative reviews, I think it's so important to avoid being defensive.
Right.
I think telling your side of the story, I mean, you got to be so careful with that, because remember, your review is public as well. And if you come off difficult to work with, or that the customer was wrong, or that they didn't understand, that puts a bad taste, not just in that customer's mouth, but everybody else that's reading it.
Right.
So I think it's more important, as you said, to respond, even if it's generic, just said, thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate you giving us a chance to work with us. It sounds like something didn't work out. Let us call you. Let us, figure this out offline. That's a perfect response.
Sort of like if they're going to rant and rave, let them go, and you respond in a calm and collected manner. It comes across that way, and it looks like you're the rational party in the argument there. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to get into a dispute, like a verbal or a typing dispute, because as we know, with texting can be very, very dangerous, because there's no
context.
There's no context to what you're typing, so you don't know if it's coming across mean or
funny,
funny or sarcastic. So I think, like Pam just said, being neutral in the responses is key to success with that.
Yep. And I think it's, you can't take it personally. It's your business. And I think the worst ones are if they mention, specific tech in a review. Those can be tough. But I read a review recently. I was looking for, examples of good ways and bad ways to respond to Yelp reviews online. And I found this technician that had just the best response to an angry customer. And, this guy, HVAC tech, he showed up late, and didn't have the right parts. And, there's just all sorts of things that went wrong that this customer said. And the business owner responded and he said, I sucked. It was a bad day and things went really poorly. And, I don't really have any excuse, but, the only thing that I can do is to improve. And I just thought that was such a genuine, authentic response.
Yeah.
He owned it.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, that's what sometimes we have to do that as owners and just come forth.
Yeah, I think people, they know when you're being honest and and real, and if you're trying to just BS them, it comes across.
So
it comes across so much better than if you were just trying to be defensive about it, right? If you had the two options of just owning up to a mistake or trying to be defensive, and I think it just comes off much better.
Yeah.
So you have
to receive their pain, right? You have to physically receive their pain and just be neutral.
Yeah.
I don't like your dog either. So Pam, we're going to have a lot of people that we're going to be talking to over the next 6 to 8 months before the 2020 show in Orlando. So with that coming up, which we're super excited for, and you're going to be doing some public speaking down there, running some classes, or you?
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing down there and what someone could be looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always participate both in the HR Expo and the ASHRAE conference. So you'll find me. It's not hard to find women running around at these meetings, but you'll definitely find me. I will be giving a presentation during the HR Expo about how to best position your business in line with industry trends. So the HR Expo Expert Council that you mentioned before, we put together a list of, the top 5 HVAC trends that are going on. That's an article that's going to be published here shortly.
Cool.
And what I'll be talking about is, given those 5 things, how can you make sure that you're in the best possible position as a business in this industry?
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely hit us up a couple of months before so we can plug that again and again so that people know.
I know one of the top 5 things that are trending is the HVAC jerks.
That's true. We are on the top. I'm sure we'll be on the top of that list. That's true.
Listen, it's not trending on Twitter.
I just opened a Twitter account a couple of weeks ago, and I am not up to par on what I'm doing on here.
That's a whole nother world.
Hashtag, oh my God.
Yeah, I need some instruction on that.
Yeah, to stay away from it. That's what I recommend.
So one last thing before we wrap things up here, Pam, in your business, what do you tell us more about what you do and how people can get in touch with you if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do is I help businesses that really either don't have any full-time marketing person or never have, or did it one time and it just fell off. I specialize in the smaller businesses that just need a little bit of help. And I like to have fun. I'm maybe a little extroverted person. I'm a millennial, so only people that have fun need apply.
Okay, good. We like that.
But yeah, I help with people's, their website, social media, building out blogs, doing just general business development for them, brochures, case studies, et cetera. So I do all of the things that you would need to get started in your business.
And what's the name of your company again?
So the name of my company is Spark One Solutions. You can find me at sparkonesolutions.com. That's ONE spelled out, not the number 1. And if you want to email me, it's pam@sparkonesolutions.com.
So listen, Pam, we're going to be down at the 2020 ourselves. It looks like we're going to be doing some stuff down there as well. So we would love to hook up with you and, maybe we can collaborate down there. I'm sure we'll have more new and interesting things to talk about in 8 months. Yeah, we'd love to have you come by and maybe you can visit us and, just be good to introduce you to some people and we can talk again.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Oh, man, thank you so much for your time. I know you're on a different time zone. Is it like past your bedtime out there? Or where?
No, it's earlier there.
No, it's earlier out here.
You sure? Was it like lunch?
Yeah, see, the geography part as well as the alphabet part wasn't covered in the school either.
Yeah. We're like 3 floors on the ground, and we never come out of the dark.
You're in Texas. Where are you? On the north side, south side, east, west?
North. I'm in the Dallas area.
You're in the Dallas area. Okay. My wife is from McAllen, down on the border. So.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
A little bit hotter down there.
All right. So, all right. Well,
so be ready for having some fun in Orlando.
We really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Hopefully, it wasn't too unbearable with the sound system.
Yeah. So, all right.
Fine.
Well,
so I'll see you guys in Orlando.
Yeah. And
awesome.
We hope you'll join us next week when Anonymous Joe orders 2 sets of Brunello Cucinelli snowshoes for his dog Testarossa and discovers that they don't make them in red.
His dog Testarossa.
That was Brunello Cucinelli.
My dog's name is, I can't even say my dog's name. That would give me up for sure.
It's not
Testarossa.
Anyway,
goodness. Sorry,
thank
Pam,
you everyone for joining us tonight.
You're part of that awful monologue at the end.
Sorry, Pam, you got caught in that. But anyway, thanks for having fun with us. Catch us on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter one of these days when I get up to speed there. You can catch us at the HVACjerks.com, our website. We've got some things you can buy up there.
And make sure we look up Pam out there. Make sure we get give her a shout. Check out our website and her email. And,
Yep.
You want to give it one more plug there, Pam?
Yeah. Find me, sparkonesolutions.com.
All right.
Awesome.
And you can send us an email at theboys@thehvacjerks.com. Until then, have a good day.
Take care.
You guys are jerks.
Follow the HVAC Jerks on Facebook and Instagram.